What is going on YouTube? Gabus here and welcome to episode 34 of the Tech Pills bi-weekly live stream. So let's start right off with the first news of today. The Pinephone will get some sweet upgrades by switching its cover. Alright, so Pine64, they really never cease to surprise me. Do you remember that the Pinephone has some pogo pins on the back under the removable back cover? Yeah, that's kind of forgettable as we haven't seen too much use for them up until now, that is, of course. So Pine64 teased this summer and now announced that they have a prototype coming soon. What am I talking about? They are releasing a replacement back cover that adds many features to your Pinephone, including a physical QWERTY keyboard, a QI wireless charging coil, a 5000 mAh battery backup, and an NFC antenna. Wow. I mean, you see, this kind of stuff, this makes me excited. The guys over at Pine64, they're going out of their way to make the Pinephone the perfect hacker's smartphone. And all of this functionality added on top of your existing device, it's just incredible. Any other manufacturer, I think, would have sold the whole package as a different product, hoping that their customers would trash their old phone to get the new one, as they typically do. By the looks of how things are shaping up, the Pinephone will be a forever smartphone, where, like with a desktop PC, you just will be able to switch out bits and pieces along the way and upgrade your device without having to buy a whole new device. And to add on to this idea, starting in November, they're going to sell a replacement motherboard for older versions of the Pinephone to be able to upgrade them to the specs of the newer Convergence Edition versions. So if you're not up to date with like the different versions of the Pinephone, there are currently two versions, one with 2 GB of RAM and I think 16 GB of storage, and a Convergence Edition version, whatever. Up until now, it came into a bundle with a USB Type-C dock. It was called the Convergence Bundle, and the difference in the actual phone hardware is that it has 3 GB of RAM instead of 2 and 32 GB of internal storage compared to 16 in the regular model. So starting again in November, they're going to sell a replacement motherboard with these better specs so that customers can just swap the motherboard and basically have a more powerful Pinephone in their hands without having to trash the whole thing. What I think is happening here, and this could be a long shot, but anyway, this is kind of my idea what's going on here, is that the dream of Google Project Ara, the Lego-like smartphone that died many years ago, may be finally coming to a reality with the Pinephone and with devices like it. Finally, you are able to buy now a smartphone that you can open up and hack onto. And that's just crazy good to me. I mean, just the ability to open up your phone and change the internals depending on whether you want to upgrade, I don't know, the CPU, the storage, or maybe the camera along the way. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised to know that at some point Pine64 will just sell a replacement camera module to upgrade your camera or whatever, maybe even extended batteries. And the batteries are already replaceable. You can already go and buy multiple batteries for a Pinephone, and maybe I'm not sure about this, but the form factor is standard. It's based on, I mean, the form factor for the battery is based on the Samsung Galaxy J7, something like that, so that you can already buy replacement batteries even on Amazon for your Pinephone, and just maybe carry more batteries with you and swap them if you need to during the day, or if you plan on doing a trip and don't want to pack your charger with you. This is an option, and possibly even like extended batteries. As we've seen with these replacement back cover upgrade that they're releasing, they are adding a 5,000 milliamp hour battery already. So this is already a pretty substantial upgrade compared to the internal battery, which is already, I mean, decently big, just like any other normal smartphone. But having this extra battery means you will be able to have like a lot more battery life on your phone, plus the additional features like the physical keyboard, the wireless charging, the NFC. I mean, all of this, it just stacks up in my opinion. This is really shaping up to be a great device, and I'm really happy that I ordered mine back in September, and it will be shipping in November. At least that's the last update I got on it. So let's see. I'm really looking forward to having it in my hands and playing around with it, and seeing for myself how it is to use this phone in my day-to-day life. Anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. In a kind of a weird flex, the Windows calculator is now available on Linux. It's a snap? All right. I don't typically talk about Windows or Microsoft here on the show. It just doesn't interest me. But this could actually be kind of interesting. So the calculator in Windows is open source. Microsoft released the source code for it a while back to serve as a reference implementation of their universal Windows platform thing. Anyway, thanks to an open source project called Uno Platform, this calculator, built with Microsoft technologies for Windows, mind you, works on Linux. So the Uno platform, which by the way doesn't have anything to do with the card game, it is a project, an open source project aiming at making applications built with C#, WinUI, and XAML truly cross-platform, running on iOS, macOS, Android, Linux, and of course Windows. Mind you, this isn't something like Wine, so I just want to make this clear. This isn't like another Wine. Instead, it's just targeted as for developers that choose to use these technologies to build their software and decide that they want to make them cross-platform. It's kind of a weird idea in my opinion, wanting to use like the whole Microsoft Windows stack for building your application, considering there are lots and lots of great toolkits and frameworks out there to build cross-platform applications. But anyway, if that's what you do, and maybe you're a Windows shop and you want to make an application and want to make it compatible with all platforms, but you know how to develop for Windows, then you can use all the tools that you already know, like C#, WinUI, and XAML again, and build your software to be cross-platform. You can build this for all the major operating systems out there. And of course, since this is Microsoft and they have big ties with Canonical, they are releasing this as a snap. But nothing stops you from trying to compile this yourself and build any other kind of package out of it. Jose Marcos says, hi, hey there, thanks for joining. So what was I saying? Nothing stops you from building this calculator for whatever other packaging format you want. I don't think that there's too much interest for this, as the Microsoft calculator, the Windows calculator, served as a reference implementation. I think that this porting effort serves as another reference implementation for the Uno platform. So this is actually a pretty smart idea, and who knows, maybe at some point developers, if developers get on board with this idea, with this project, this could be a way to run some previously incompatible Windows apps on Linux and natively as well. Honestly, I think it's hard to it's a little bit hard for me to get my hopes up too much. Plus, like at this day and age, I don't think that I need anything coming from Windows on my Linux machine. But still, it might be interesting to see how this unfolds. And I know that there are some Microsoft employees working on getting Office and other stuff working under Linux. So maybe this could help in this effort. Maybe it could be a way to port some Microsoft apps to Linux natively. Who knows? Let's see where that goes. Jose Marcos. Okay, let me bring up the chat here. Jose Marcos says Edge is coming to Linux too. Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about this when the news first hit, because I don't think that it's too relevant, to be honest. Okay, so if you don't know, Microsoft ditched Internet Explorer and they started developing this Edge browser based on a different tech compared to Internet Explorer. And at some point, they decided that they didn't want to make their own web rendering engine. So at the end, they just decided to fork Chromium, which is the open source project behind Google Chrome, and make their browser basically based on Chromium. And that's the new Edge browser. And since, of course, Chromium is already compatible with Linux, the fact that they decided that Edge would come to Linux is really not too surprising to me. Everyone was expecting this, so I don't think that it came as a big news or anything to anyone looking at the tech scene out there. Again, Chromium is open source and it is already compatible with Linux, and they just packaged it for Linux, their distribution of the Chromium browser. It doesn't really excite me too much, and at the end of the day, what they're trying to do with this move, in my opinion, is take back control of the web via the Edge browser, and also by trying to steer the direction of the Chromium development and steer the direction of the overall internet web ecosystem. Again, it's hard for me to get excited for something about this. If anything, it just smells bad, if you know what I mean. And if there's any Microsoft product that I could use on my system that's DirectX, just because of game compatibility, and maybe Office, and not myself personally, but I know some people that just don't like LibreOffice and they just want Microsoft Office, and that could help. But of course, they're releasing something that no one cares about, Internet Explorer, or as they rebranded it, Edge. So that's my take on the whole Microsoft on Linux debacle thing. All right, let's move on to the next news of today. Systemd 247 merges Systemd OOMD for improving out-of-memory handling. So, if you have ever done any measure of intensive work on your Linux box, you probably know that going out of memory, when you go out of memory, things tend to go out of hand quickly. So Fedora actually chose to address this problem by shipping the early OOM daemon, which we talked about in a previous episode. It's basically a user space daemon that kills applications when the memory pressure or the amount of memory used in your system gets too high. And that's the way Fedora addressed the problem. And now we have a new solution that's built into Systemd, and originally called Systemd OOMD, or Systemd out of memory daemon. Again, not too original, but it's self-explanatory. This Systemd component has been developed by Facebook for use in their servers, but has since been extended to work nicely on Linux desktop systems as well. If properly configured, this allows you to kill processes taking up too much RAM if the memory pressure, meaning how much your RAM is filled up, goes beyond a certain threshold. It may not seem too exciting to you, but this is a very welcome addition to Systemd. Thanks to this, you will be able to just work on your system without the fear of going out of memory and having to hard reset your system. And this happened to me many times. Since I upgraded to 16 gigabytes of RAM, hasn't happened all that much, but it does happen, particularly when you're doing something like streaming or gaming. Some games in particular tend to be badly optimized and take up too much RAM, and other scenarios may be um, video editing and video transcoding, sometimes compositing, whatever. Of course, big workloads, intensive applications, they tend to use your RAM quite freely, and if they get out of control because of a bug or because of a bad optimization, your system will just hang. And once your system hangs, it tries to recover, but it gets in this weird state where it moves stuff to the swap, and from swap it moves it back to the RAM because it needs to be used, and nothing gets done in the system, and it just freezes and you cannot use it. And having something like this, like early OOM or systemd OOMD, really solves this problem. And of course, it can be kind of annoying if you're working on something and your application just closes, but I think that's better than just having your old system freeze, because that could lead to other kind of problems, other memory losses in other programs that you have open. So this is actually probably not the best solution, but I don't see any better solution at this point, so it's a welcome change. So as of systemd 247, this feature will be disabled by default and can be automatically enabled as a preview. It can be, manually enabled as a preview so that developers can play around with it. But mind you, it's still being refined and does need some work before being deployed in a production environment. So if you're feeling adventurous, try it out, see it for yourself. And if you're not too adventurous, just wait for it to be more widely used, to be tested in the field and see if it fits your needs. All right, moving on to the next news of today. The Common Unix Printing Service, or CUPS, has been forked away from Apple. So if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, CUPS is the printing system initially developed by Apple as an open source project that we Linux users use on our systems. Yes, it is an Apple product, and yes, it's the same printing system that Apple uses on the products. Apparently, Apple is losing interest in the development of CUPS, with only one commit coming from Apple to the project in all of 2020. This is really sad. For this reason, along with the fact that the main CUPS developer, Michael R. Sweet, left Apple about a year ago, CUPS has been forked under the umbrella of a project called the Open Printing Project. This project has the objective of making printing just work, as they state in their official webpage, and they state that they collaborate closely with the IEEE ISTO Printing Working Group to basically make printing technologies work on Linux and other Unix-like operating systems. So honestly, I think this is just funny how Apple couldn't keep up with the pace of this project, or maybe, they just lost interest. Anyway, it's great to see a project like this moving forward and under a new, seemingly more open umbrella nonetheless. And having this project to move to basically going independent or mostly independent could only mean good news. Maybe without Apple isn't really one fast-moving company, if you know what I mean, particularly when it comes to software. On the other side of things, well, that's kind of a different story. But as far as the software goes, they're kind of slow-moving. And having CUPS under new management means that we will probably see a lot more contributions and a lot more improvements, and possibly even support for devices that were previously unsupported. Who knows? It's really, really interesting. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you could say, I don't use printers all that much anymore, and I think that the use of printers in general is going down. And well, that's a bad thing in a way, because I like to play around with with new stuff, and knowing that CUPS is under new management makes me just want to play around with it more. But at the same time, printing is not like the most ecologically friendly way of distributing knowledge, so maybe that's a good thing. Who knows? Anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. Jaram, my Reddit app that I recently created, is finally out, and there's more to come. So, if you will follow the previous episode, you know that I've been developing an application, a Linux app for Reddit called Jaram. And I finally pulled the trigger and released it on FlatHub. So you can go ahead and go to flathub.com or .org. I think that's .org. Oh, come on. I could have thought this true. Okay, you can go to flathub.org and just search for Jara, Giara, and you can install it on your Linux distribution or on your Linux phone. And at this point, it's mostly usable. The biggest problems, I solved them, meaning that the application is now pretty fast, pretty damn fast if you ask me, and faster, definitely faster than the website. And you can browse posts, you can see comments, you can reply to posts and comments and delete your previous post, upvote, downvote, save. Most of the things that you can do on Reddit, you can do with Jara. And the only things that are really missing are like moderation controls. And let me think. Multi-Reddits, I've been working on them and they're mostly implemented. They're not in the Flatpak release yet at this point, but I will tag a new release very soon. As far as the multi-Reddit implementation goes, they work. You can create new multi-Reddits and you can add your subreddits to multi-Reddits, and you can view the multi-Reddits. But it's just a little bit inconvenient because at this point you cannot like bulk add subreddits to a multi-Reddit. So that's going to come at some point. And other features that are missing are galleries that they just don't work because Reddit tries to make it hard to get like media content from their website, so that you are basically forced to use their website. Anyway, it will come at some point, gallery support. At this point, if you see a Reddit gallery, you just have to open the link and then it will open the gallery in your browser so you can see all the images. Other features that are missing, again, you cannot create subreddits, you cannot ban people, you cannot hide posts. There are a couple of things that are still missing, but for the most part, the application is usable. You can browse Reddit from it, you can consume your content. That's most of the reason why I wanted to create something like this, because I browse Reddit a lot in my free time when I'm just bored and I just want to read something that I'm interested in. And that's it. If you want to try it out, again, it's on FlatHub, or you can go to jara.gabnus.org and press the download button there. And let me know how it works for you. Let me know if there are any bugs. Of course, you can leave a comment in this video or reach me out on Telegram, or maybe probably better if you open an issue on the GitLab page. You will find all the information at jara.gabnus.org. And for the last news of today, this is more of a late edition. I just wanted to talk about this. I recently discovered a new open source project called Plausible. Plausible is a web app that is open source. It's under the Afro GPL license, and you can host it on your server. On your server. And what it allows you to do is it's basically an analytics service that respects user privacy and user freedom. The application itself is open source and fully free software, and you can either pay and use their hosted service, which is, by the way, it's not really all that expensive, or if you prefer, you can host it on your own server using Docker. I chose the latter since I already have a server and no money to spend, unfortunately, on just little things that I want to try out. The installation was flawless, and it was really it's really a great piece of software. According to their research, the way that they are implementing website analytics respects GDPR and all of the other privacy regulations out there, because it doesn't collect any user identifiable information. It's not like they are anonymizing the user data. They're not collecting identifiable user data in the first place. So you don't even need a GDPR compliance whatever dialog box in your website. You don't need any of that mess. You just put the script in your website, which by the way is a lot lighter than the Google Analytics script, and you can immediately start seeing analytics for your website, and it gives you some very interesting insights, like for example where the user comes from, meaning where if they click the link from another website to get to your web page, what pages have been visited, what pages have the most views, and the number of unique visitors, which by the way uses a very interesting mechanism to try and calculate that in a fully anonymous and privacy respecting way. So again, it's called Plausible. You can find it at plausible.io. So again, it's plausible.io. It's a great analytics tool if you're a web developer, or you just have a website and want to dabble in some nice analytics without having to invade your user privacy. Give it a shot. All right, guys, and with that, I think that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. And also remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. Make sure to join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community. And also, you can find all the links for the various community places, whatever, the Telegram group, the Telegram channel, and the Discord server, as well as my GitLab, using one of the QR codes on the left side of the screen. Again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.